So embarrassing filming at the airport, but we are currently off to the Airbnb, heading to the Chicago Music Nexus. Figure I would bring y'all along for the trip. And yeah, stay tuned. Ayo. Oh, it's fucking nice.
Oh, it's really nice.
This is dope. Okay, day one, Chicago Music Nexus. Got the boys Hagen and Bodden here with. Last night we just did our touristy shit around Chicago. Went on a boat tour, grabbed some food, walked around. Awesome city as always. And then now we're just gonna head out, grab some lunch / breakfast, and then we'll have the full day ahead. So we'll see how it goes. I mean, these things are always interesting. Like, I am very focused on like production learning, so it's nice to kind of take yourself out of being in the producer only mindset and just hear about branding and how to like best package yourself and get yourself out there. So stay tuned.
DJs, and it's developed into something a lot more than that. But so today I kind of wanted to give you something that you guys can take away and actually implement into your own careers, because you know, it's all good and well being able to send music to some of the biggest investors and labels, but you know, most of you are here today because you want to move your careers forward, and we get the opportunity to.
Okay, it is freezing cold in Toronto. Dames and I have all my shit packed up there. We're about to go and teach a production tutorial. We had around 50 people sign up, which is awesome. First release, Girls Wanna Dance, on our label, coming up on December 6th. So shit ton of things going on. I still need to do a proper recap on the Chicago Music Nexus, but I'll get some content up tonight, toss that at the end, but let's do this.
Fine, I don't know your plans. I just wanna get some. Girls wanna summer with their friends, wanna do it to the next and get the job. Lock the gun. Girls just wanna dance. Girls just wanna have.
And my Chicago Music Nexus recap vid that I was planning to post was a little bit delayed, but it took me a while just really to think through how I wanted to kind of conclude the video. I got some, shots of me and the guys walking around through Chicago and attending the Chicago Music Nexus, but I have my notebook, so I have a school backdrop, which you probably can't see, but class is in session. I'm going to break down my notes, give you some highlights, talk about what I'm planning to do in 2026, and we'll go from there. One thing I'll probably slot in, which I don't think I recorded anything for, was I did a production seminar. That was actually one of the things that I thought was a good idea coming out of the Chicago Music Nexus. So for my record label Tached, which is a label between Dame's House and I, we did a free seminar breaking down our first release on the label. I think it's going to be a quarterly thing. We had over 50 people sign up, which was fantastic. And kind of just, open up the file, went through exactly what Dames and I do on songs, and I think it's helpful for people to see and hear the song at the same time, really actually know what's behind the project, versus sometimes when you're just watching a YouTube video, you don't really get that interaction, and then also, in person is in person. So I'll pause this little monologue here and we'll get into it. I'll just, no editing, go through my notes, talk about what I thought about the Chicago Music Nexus, and then how it's kind of impacting my game plan for 2026. So tune in, let's get it. Okay, so my notebook is super chaotic looking, which is hilarious. I took more of the artsy approach. I wish you could see the drawings and shit that I did on this, which was pretty funny. But let's kind of break down the first takeaway. So first takeaway for me, it was really on community and creating the demand. So, you know, how can you sell tickets in your hometown, right? Are you that DJ, that producer at home where you're well known for your craft, whether it's DJing and producing. And this kind of relates to your fan base. So one of the notes that I captured here was like the story, you know, there's not enough people telling the story, and nobody can hate you for trying to tell a story, which I guess is what I'm doing right now, right? And then it's around building, right? So how do you actually build this fan base? So for me, how I'm kind of approaching this, right? I've been in the tech house scene for I think 2 years now in Toronto. Grew up in like a neighboring town, was in bands. So I knew like the band scene at the time when I was in like high school and in university, all of like the post-hardcore kind of bands. That was my thing. And I used to go to shows all the time. I used to go to the guitar shops, the record stores, tiny venues, you know, supporting everyone in the scene as much as humanly possible and doing my own DIY things. And I feel like that's how people built a fan base. It was cool to go and see, you know, some band in the back of a record store, like go and play a intimate set, right? And that's kind of something that I want to start bringing into the detached / Marquisio world in 2026. So, you know, how I'm almost thinking about it is really just intimate venues, you know, 30 to 50 people max. Like I want to cram people who I know are going to dance, my friends, maybe people who like Dames and my music, into these small kind of shows and kind of think about like, how can we give you a really cool experience, right? Like we will play unreleased music from ourselves, from others that you've never heard before. And kind of things like that, I think can help build a fan base in a similar way as I was doing more in like the DIY kind of hardcore scene. So that's kind of one thought. It's all around fan basing, community, creating the demand. Another thing that I'll just kind of stick here is just vision boarding. Been struggling with like, I wanted to use Pinterest as my vision board. I thought it was a really good idea in terms of like just being able to create folders and like find cool photos that fit. How I envisioned it was like clubs that I wanted to play at, like putting the images of the dance floor behind the booth and that into a folder on Pinterest. Hasn't worked yet. So, I mean, obviously the easiest way is just, you know, make a photo album or make a Canva or even do it on Instagram and just create a folder that way. But who knows? So that is page 1 of my Chicago Music Nexus notes. Next thing is just around consistency. So it's how are you building that awareness? How are you building that excitement? Are you giving access? And then how are people acting on things? So here is when George from TrackStack came and spoke. TrackStack is a fantastic platform. For me, it's helped a lot in terms of getting support from DJs and signing records to labels. You know, there's kind of 3-4 approaches that you can use to get music. Number one is obviously good old-fashioned email. You find the email of the label or the DJ, shoot him a message, say, hey, what's up? You know, my name's Marquisio. I'm a DJ producer from Toronto, signed on ABC labels. Here's some percussive tech house demos. Hope you dig, right? And then fingers crossed they respond. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Next route is in person. You know, big shout out to Nathan Barado for pushing me to do this again. So just bringing a USB to a show. It works. It's not always going to work, right? But it's nice building that personal connection with somebody. I gave the DJ who was coming, was an international artist at Coda, gave him my USB. He shot me an email back saying, like, these tunes are dope. I'm going to support them, which was huge because that guy's one of my inspirations songwriting-wise, which is great. So that's kind of route number 2. And then route number 3, I think, is huge, is TrackStack, right? So you can go on to TrackStack. You can find the profiles typically on people's websites or on SoundCloud. So that's where you find it for free. And then you can shoot your demo or promo over there. It's all tracked. It's, you know, you can see when they listen, if they listen, etc. It's another great tool. I think in 2026, you kind of need to be doing everything. under the sun. It's one of those things where obviously one route may work best for one person. For me, it's still a mixed bag today, so I will continue to send demos and promos via email. I will continue to try and hand USBs to DJs that I'm fans of when I can, and then I'll also continue to use TrackStack. Another side note that I had here was AI tools. Poppy AI. You can use code Olivia Mancuso. She suggested this as an AI assistant, so if anybody's looking for AI assistance, that was kind of it note-wise, right? So let me just rephrase and recenter my thoughts here. So basically, Chicago Music Nexus went down, kind of like a day conference. The takeaways were good, right? I obviously wrote down some good notes. I think the biggest thing for me wasn't necessarily like the notes itself, right? It's more so around the fact that I was in Chicago. There was, 100 people who were at the conference, and they're all trying to do the exact same shit as me, right? Everyone's trying to become a DJ or a producer or a musician, right? And I thought it was just a good reminder on my end that just try harder, right? Like, you think you're trying hard, well, there's somebody else trying harder than you. I know that's like probably not a healthy way of thinking about it, but look, like I grew up playing sports my whole life. I grew up in the DIY kind of music scene where that's kind of the only way to succeed, was just to get up the next day and do better than the day before. And that's my approach really to how I'm taking my Marquisio project this year, is just, number one, how do I build that fan base, right? Which I think is going to be tricky, but it is what it is. If it was easy to build a fan base, everyone would. Number two is, how do I actually just engage with people in the community more? So it's probably going out, to more events. I don't really drink or party when I go out, which is a good thing. So I can probably sustain that for a good amount of time throughout the rest of the year. Summer is really when it's like Toronto's peak time in terms of events and things happening, and it's really like the best time to go out. But it's probably better for me to be going out now as well, just when the events and things are a little less busy, because it's pretty snowy and cold outside. And then I think the third thing that I'll kind of just wrap up my thoughts with, I don't know if I have a third thing, to be completely honest. I feel like 3 is just a lucky number, So hopefully this was a good wrap up to the clips that I had before. I'm going to try and be more consistent with these throughout the year. I don't know if vlogging is really my thing, but I'm going to give it a shot. At the end of the day, you can always find me on Instagram, Marquisio _DJ, and we'll leave it there. Ciao.